Hey guys, I've been meaning to do a video on my pickup journey. Not picking up chicks. I mean pickups for the instrument violin. As I did one other video, I've used the Fishman for years. It's very dependable. It works well for here it is, this little thing right there. That's it. See that? It works well for if you want to be able to remove it, or even if you want to just leave it. It slides in the slot. I did one other video about this. It's your I think I called it your ticket to superstardom or some silly thing. Anyways, it just slides in that slot. The slot has to be big enough for like an emery board to slide through, so you can do a little bit of work yourself or have a professional do it for you. They have two different models. One with they call it professional with this jack on there. Actually, pilfered some of the parts of it. And they hold it on the violin right now, but it's soldered to a jack. Other kind, you just kind of twist tie onto your tailpiece. That works, but the drawback of the Fishman and other piezo type pickups in general is they sound a bit stuffy and nasally, and you have to EQ the crap out of them to try and make them sound any good. You can do that with the help of things that Fishman itself makes. Here's one, a preamp thing sits on the floor. It's got some, EQ to slide up and down to EQ it. This is a handy thing to have on hand in case you're ever in a situation where you need to just sit in and get your sound together real quickly in somebody else's gear. They make a lesser model, which I also have. Has a few less bells and whistles, but it's also got the EQ in there. I use this one all the time, actually. Simpler. Now, if you want to sound, I realized when I was playing with Bobik, we were a very acoustic band, gypsy jazz. It's supposed to sound like a Stradivarius, but I realized when I was on stage, I had my Fishman pickup off this violin, this very violin, going into a little amp that sounded good to me. But I was realizing what I heard was not what the audience was hearing, because I'm hearing my acoustic violin right here too, and I was just, my ears are supplementing the amp with this. It was always a good blend between that. But I heard some board mixes from some of our shows, and it's like, yeah, the violin really does sound kind of nasally. It sounds very canned, and it sounds like your head is squashed in that slot. If you imagine your head going in there, that's kind of what it sounds like. So things in general sound like what they look. It's a good guide for you. Again, very consistent and very loud. That works, but it's not necessarily the most pleasing tone I was going for. So after I think the guy that engineered our American Garage, it's Pat Metheny, American Gypsy album, he mentioned it to me. He said, yeah, live you don't really sound like you did in the studio and stuff. It's a shame. It's like, oh yeah, Mike Rourke. Hey Rourke. Hey Mike. Talking too fast. Anyways, so I began on a hunt to try and get more of an acoustic sound. I went to a microphone for a while, and I happed on this nice setup. It's an Audio-technica. It's the little belt clip thingy, hooks on your belt or your shirt pocket or somewhere on you, and then there's a microphone. These are made, I'm not sure if this is the one made for guitar, for violin actually, but it worked fine. AT8531 is the model number. Can you see that in there? I got it from a guitar player. And they hook it by the Gypsy Guitar's bridge, or not, by the Gypsy Guitar's sound hole somewhere. Now, here's the microphone. Little teeny little thing. There's my index finger. It's about the size of your index finger. This is the windscreen. Windscreen comes on and off. There's the actual microphone, and you can use the with the windscreen or not. Now, what I did was I put it simply, at first, I just stuck it between a couple strings, like that. And pointed it right at the bridge, pretty much. This would pick up the sound from the sound holes, and hear the scrape of the bow and that kind of stuff. All the stuff that the piezo pickups are missing. The air. This is definitely picking up the air. In sound checks, some of the band members said, boy, you could go with just that if you wanted to, but I always kind of blended both for quite a while, for a year or more. I experimented with the angle of this. The more down it pointed, the more electric it sounded, and the more up, it's actually made to be like up here, I think. They actually have a gizmo, like a little thing that can hold it. More up here, the more acoustic it sounds. But the more up here, the more danger of feedback there was, because it's kind of open in the air and it can pick up the PA and start squealing. So the more down in here, the more protected it sounded, but the more electric it sounded. So that worked quite nicely. Then I realized, though, that if I am in the heat of the moment, my nostril blowing would sound like a thunderstorm on the microphone sometimes. I had to be careful about how he's breathing. So that wasn't a good situation because I like to just be in the moment, as you all know. So then I added the windscreen. I rigged it away. Let me do it for you. I tried it like this at first. I'd tell you so you can try all these things. I tried it with the windscreen underneath there. See, I just installed it. I stuck it in there and then stuck the windscreen from underneath onto it. All right, that kind of worked. That at least lessened my heavy breathing on the microphone. I experimented with the other way too. It's coming from below. I'll do this quickly. Let's stick it up here. I experimented with it coming from below. Now this gave it a more acoustic sound, but it was again more dangerous for feedback. And the problem with coming from below is I often like to pluck the chords to support the other soloist, and my shirt would going through a big PA system. That was not good, and also it made it even more susceptible up here to my breathing, or me telling guys the bridge or something. And sometimes you didn't want stuff for the audience to hear, but they could hear everything through this mic right here if you're telling them secret something like the band maybe not always so good. So it sounded good. It was a good mix. It was definitely an improvement. But it had its drawbacks, and this item I think is about $300. So it's a professional quality thing. It sounds professional, but it had its drawbacks from my application. So there's the $300 range. And the Fishman pickup is about $120 somewhere in there. So let me take this off for a second. I'll show you the magic I came up with finally. I had a student who wanted to get into electrifying their violin, and Father said, "You got anything for us that we can experiment with?" And I said, "Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I got some cheap. I had them in a box somewhere in my shop. I had bought through the Music Link. It's an online thing that you can. They're a supplier to music stores worldwide. My Outlaw Fiddle is a dealer for Music Link, a little side business. Anyways, I had bought a bunch of these and put them on the side. They're meant to. You can see the diagram in the back. They're meant to put on an acoustic guitar somewhere. They're a suction cup business. And I had tried this years ago, and they sound bad in general. There it is. It's a piezo element, nothing different than the Fishman. I'm sure it's the same element that is in a doorbell buzzer you can get at Radio Shack. And you can experiment with doorbell buzzers, too. You can buy the doorbell buzzer at Radio Shack and tear it apart. Like there's an element inside. Like flip this apart and take the element out and experiment with yourself. They can work quite well if you put them in the right spot, which was the magic for this. So there's one. It's a piezo element in a little encapsulated container with this suction cup. It's supposed to stick on a guitar, if your finish is good enough. Now, so I thought, before I give it to this student so they could try electric violin stuff, let me experiment and see how it sounds. So I stuck it on my own violin. And I don't have a shiny finish. It wouldn't stick. So I'm going, great, cheap rubber. So let me just tuck it underneath I thought, I'll tuck it underneath and I'll show you what I did. Just kind of tucked it underneath the tailpiece, and I plugged it in. And I'll be darned if it didn't sound nearly as good as the $300 Audio-Technica mic. I was flabbergasted. This thing cost me $9, I think, wholesale, something like that. I sell them for about $20, so I make a little money. My wife yells at me. So if you want to buy one from me, I can get them. Anyways, you can buy them at just about any music shop and get them too. Hard salesman I am. Huh? Anyways, I thought, I'll be darned. I said, I'm not giving this to him. I'm keeping this for myself. I got them another one and gave it to him. So after I got a little more serious about it, I thought, maybe I should. I just stuck it and tucked it under the corner. It does kind of torque the tailpiece, but piezo pickups, as you may know, are pressure sensing devices. So having tucked underneath the tailpiece actually pushed down a little bit and gave it a better tone. So I thought, if I'm going to get serious about it, maybe I should stick it halfway underneath and like hide it, kind of up like that. So you got to retune your violin because it torques. And that hit it definitely. You can barely see it right now. And I ran the wire underneath down here and stuff, and down my shirt then. And when I put it there, it all of a sudden sounded like a $9 pickup. It sounded boomy, boxy, just cheap. And I thought, so it just happened that I, by dumb luck, by tucking it into the corner just for a quick test, tapped onto the magic spot. Wasn't that cool? If you put it on this violin, on the corner, as a matter of fact, I took a whiteout pen and marked exactly where it was. That's where all those little sunburst little thingies are on there. That's my drawing of the corner of my tailpiece to tell me exactly where to put it again when I want to get that exact sound, which I now do on every gypsy gig. I use only this. Now, this is a pretty cheesy cable coming off it. What do you want for $9, right? It's a plastic molded end, which will probably, if you're not careful, break. Cheap stuff. But sounds great. I can't complain at all. On any professional stage, it got rid of a couple problems with the microphone. It doesn't hear my breathing. My shirt sleeve doesn't rub on it and make sound like elephants in a field of cornflakes coming through the PA. It works great. I just kind of tuck the cable in underneath around through my shoulder rest. I just kind of tucked in there and out of the way, and just the cable runs down my shirt down to this thing. Which I can then EQ it if I need to. It hardly needs any EQ. I roll the bass off a little bit, but doesn't need too much. And then I take a cable from there to the PA, and it's fine. It sounds better than anything I've used before. It sounds more acoustic. You can see it made the E string go sharp. But anyways, that retuning was not a big deal. So, any quirks on this? I made sure that rubber suction cuppy thing is seated well there, otherwise it can rattle and stuff. Remember, it's a pressure sensitive, but it'll pick up every little thing if you're not careful. So you can drum on the wood to another advantage. You can't drum on a microphone. If you hit the pickup itself, it's a very large boom sound. You got to be careful about that. But I can be a percussionist with the band too if I want with this. Win, win, win. So it's unobtrusive, it's cheap, and it sounds fantastic. How much more do you want? It is the AXL acoustic guitar pickup. There's probably one company in China that puts out all these things, that puts everybody's different names on them. I think there's other companies that has pretty much the same exact thing. This is an AXL one. It's model PG-800. You see that? And this comes with the mold. Now, they make two models. The PG-801 I also have here. I bought that too just to experiment with it. It has a jack wired on, a little more substantial, and you could wire it into a guitar or into your fiddle, I guess, if you wanted to drill a hole, if you're doing electric violin, maybe. I decided not to go there. I thought maybe I could put this in the carpenter's jack of the Fishman. I was going to experiment with that. But this particular model that the Music Link people make does not have the rubber suction cup thing. And it only has, I think I took it apart, it only has a piece of double stick tape on the back, and it didn't sound the same. So you can experiment. Now, I'm not saying that if you bought this, it'll sound exactly like the results I got. It might have, will have variance in how high your bridge is on your violin. This violin is 120 years old, and the fingerboard is gradually over the years dipping. There could stand some neck joint work to bring that back up. So my bridge is a little lower than standard on this violin, which makes the tailpiece a little lower too. So maybe it only works here on this violin because of the height of my bridge. If the bridge was higher, it wouldn't stick there. You'd have to stick it back. Maybe you're finished. So you can experiment if you want. It's worth it, the $20 investment anywhere you can go to try it. It's worked fantastic for me, and whenever I'm doing the maximum acoustic sound in the gypsy setting, I happen to just fall into this perfect location. There are, I'm sure, are other locations, but here it gives me the wood, it gives me the air, it gives me you can hear the air shaking in the wood. It gives me that woody tone, and it's balanced with the scrape of the bow. It doesn't sound like or the quacky, as guitar players call piezo pickups quacky, and they do tend to have a quack sound. So, that's the magic for me, all right? I'd suggest you check it out. If you want to get one, email me or something, I could sell you one. Otherwise, you can get them at any music store. Not a big deal. So, that's my journey. I'm sure it'll continue. Next in my journey, I'm going to mix this with the, Fishman and other things to try and do some stereo things, or I'll put distortion on one. This does not sound as good, I notice, with distortion. It's maximum acoustic sound that I'm going for with this pickup. So I like to blend, ultimately, not for gypsy, but in my electric stuff. I like to blend an acoustic sound with an electric sound. I like to think that some electric violins often sound like their violin is filled with milk. It's very milky, very creamy. That's okay, but I like to have a little grit of the real wood and scrape of the bow mixed in too. So I might go with a double pickup system to try and achieve that. I'll be reporting to you guys as I go on my journey with that too. All right? Cheers. Hope that was helpful.